"These bags are heavier than they look, but so is living alone." He said it with a small, self-aware smile, the kind that has made peace with itself, standing outside Heller's Market on Coventry Street with 2 overfull paper bags and the careful stance of a man whose knees had begun to have opinions about stairs. He was perhaps 72, white-haired, wearing a tan cardigan that had been washed so many times it had become something softer than fabric. He wasn't asking for help. He was just being honest with the afternoon. Pemba Lane, 25 years old, was 3 steps past him on her way home from her shift at the copy center when she heard it. She stopped, turned, looked at the bags, then at his hands gripping the brown paper with the particular tension of someone managing something at the outer edge of manageable. She walked back. "I'm going that direction anyway," she said, which was only partially true. Her apartment was 4 blocks north, not west, but the distance was close enough that the small rerouting felt like nothing. The old man looked at her for a moment with the considering expression of someone who has learned to receive help gracefully, which is its own kind of skill. "That's kind of you," he said. "I'm Aldous." "Pemba," she said, and took the heavier bag. They walked slowly, the way you walk with someone whose pace is different from yours when you have decided their pace is the right one for now. Aldous lived 6 blocks away in a narrow brick building with a blue door and a concrete step worn smooth in the center from decades of feet. He talked about the market, how it had changed, how the bread used to be made in-house on Thursdays, how his late wife Constance had always known which tomatoes were worth buying by pressing them very gently with one thumb. Pemba listened the way she had learned to listen from her grandmother, fully, without filling the pauses. At his door, Aldous set his bag down and looked at her with those quiet, observant eyes. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "I know," she said simply. "That's why it was worth doing." He smiled again, slower this time, deeper. Constance used to say that too. She walked home the long way and didn't think about it further. It had been 20 minutes out of a Tuesday. It had been nothing. She didn't know that Aldous had a son.
His name was Forrest Hale, 33 years old, CEO of Hale Infrastructure Group, a civil engineering and development firm that his father had founded 40 years ago as a 2-man operation, and that Forrest had built, over the past decade, into something that employed 400 people across 9 states. He was precise, capable, and carried the specific tiredness of someone who had been responsible for many things for a very long time. He called his father every Sunday and visited once a month. He had offered repeatedly and genuinely to move Aldous into a larger place, a easier building, something with an elevator. Aldous had declined every time with the same calm certainty. He had lived in that apartment for 31 years. Constance had lived there with him. The walls knew her. He was staying. Forrest had stopped pushing. He had learned slowly that some forms of love are expressed best by accepting the choices of the people you love rather than substituting your own judgment for theirs. What he hadn't known, what he discovered the following Sunday when he came for his monthly visit and Aldous mentioned it over coffee, was that a young woman named Pemba had carried his father's groceries 6 blocks on a Tuesday afternoon without being asked and without leaving a last name. Aldous described her the way he described everything he found valuable, carefully, with attention to the details that mattered. Dark hair, quiet way of listening. Said, that's why it was worth doing, when he'd thanked her. Forrest sat with his coffee and felt something move in his chest that he didn't immediately name. "Did she say where she worked?" he asked. "The copy place on Coventry," Aldous said, "near the market." Forrest looked at his father, 72 years old, white-haired, in the worn cardigan, entirely content in his small apartment with its 31 years of walls, and thought about the Tuesday afternoon that some stranger had given him without knowing his name or his son's or what either of them was worth in any ledger. He thought about it for the rest of the day.
What happened next happened because of a security camera, which was neither dramatic nor intended. The camera above Heller's market entrance had captured Pemba taking the heavier bag and the two of them walking away together, and a regular customer who ran a small neighborhood blog had posted it that evening with the caption, "This is what Coventry Street looks like on a good day." It was a warm image, the old man and the young woman, the brown paper bags, the afternoon light, and by morning it had moved beyond the neighborhood blog in the way that genuine, unperformed kindness sometimes does when the internet is in the mood to be human. Pemba woke to 17 missed calls and a text from her coworker that said simply, "Turn on your phone, you're everywhere." She was not named in the post, but someone who knew her had commented. And then her manager had shared it, and by 9 a.m. her face was on 3 local news sites above captions about community and kindness, none of which she had consented to and all of which made her deeply uncomfortable. She went to work. She kept her head down. She felt the strange vertigo of being seen for something that had felt to her like nothing worth seeing. Forrest saw the post at 7:30 a.m. before his first meeting. He recognized the street. He read the caption. He looked at the image for a long time, the particular angle of her attention toward his father, the way she had taken the heavier bag, and something that had been abstract became very specific. He went to the copy center on his lunch break. She was behind the counter when he came in. She had the slightly braced expression of someone who had been recognized twice already that morning and found it bewildering. He waited until the other customer left. "I think you carried my father's groceries home on Tuesday," he said. She looked at him carefully. "Aldous?" "Aldous." He paused. "I'm Forrest, his son." Something in her expression relaxed slightly, the recognition that this was personal rather than public. "He told you." "He talks about people who matter," Forrest said. "He doesn't talk about many people." She was quiet for a moment, straightening a stack of papers that didn't need straightening. "I saw it on the news this morning," she said. "I didn't ask for that." "I know, I'm sorry." He meant it. "That's not why I came." He paused. "I came because my father said you told him doing something because you don't have to is what makes it worth doing." Another pause. "I've been thinking about that since Sunday, and I wanted to say thank you, for me, not from the internet." Pemba looked at him. This careful, tired, genuine man in a good coat, standing in a copy center, holding nothing, asking for nothing. "How is he?" she asked. "He's good," Forrest said. "He's been eating the tomatoes he bought that day. He said they were exactly right." A brief, real smile crossed his face. "Apparently you picked them." "He told me about the thumb test," she said, and she smiled too, slow and unguarded, the kind that arrives before you decide to let it. The afternoon continued around them. The copy machines hummed. Outside, Coventry Street went about its Tuesday business. Some moments don't announce what they are. They just stand quietly at the counter and wait to be recognized. Do the kind thing before you know who's watching. Do it especially when you're sure no one is. That's not just goodness, that's character, walking home 6 blocks in the afternoon light. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.